Hello everyone, time for an update. My name is Michelle. This is my channel where I document my journey with stage 4 metastatic triple negative breast cancer, adrenal insufficiency, and anything else that I find interesting. We're outside today. It's a beautiful day. It's like 60 something degrees. I think it's a beautiful day. And today is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. My last video was May 11th, and I had mentioned it was day 12 out of my 21-day cycle of cycle number 4 of Trodelvy. And so for those of you who don't know, I have metastases of my breast cancer in my liver and my spine, and that makes me stage 4, which Trodelvy is the treatment that we're doing right now. So I had mentioned in the last video that fiber, the sun fiber supplement specifically, being added to my regimen of GI support had made a huge difference. That in those 12 days I had not experienced any diarrhea or constipation or stomach cramping. Really just fatigue was my main symptom those first 12 days. Well, on day 13 and 14, I did experience some GI side effects. I had some diarrhea, a little bit of that cramping. I think I took 3 doses total of the Bentyl. So over those 2 days, 13 and 14, but I didn't need to cancel any appointments or anything. It didn't keep me chained to the bathroom. I just had some cramping and some diarrhea when I started my day, and took the Bentyl so I could keep my appointments. I had a massage at the cancer center, and I had a dentist appointment the next day, and definitely that sun fiber still made everything a lot better. As far as the steroids, and so because I have adrenal insufficiency and don't make my own cortisol, the steroids that I have as pre-meds and post-meds of chemotherapy, I have to taper just really slow. I have to basically manage what I'm replacing that my body doesn't make, plus whatever my body needs to deal with the stress of the chemo. And so we had done, I had mentioned that I was on day 12 already. I was already after the second infusion. We had come down to, no, we were still, that day we still did 6 milligrams in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. So I was still on 8 milligrams of dexamethasone at that point. And so the next day, which was day 13, I went to 4 milligrams in the morning and then transitioned to hydrocortisone in the afternoon, but higher doses. So it was the equivalent, basically, but over more dose. So instead of just at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I would do 40 milligrams at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then at noon, and then have my 6 o'clock and bedtime doses of hydrocortisone, which was more what I normally do. By day 15, we had 2 dex in the morning and my regular hydrocortisone afternoons. And then by day 16, we were fully on hydrocortisone, so the equivalent. So instead of 2 milligrams of dex, which is approximately 60 milligrams of hydrocortisone, I went to 60 milligrams of hydrocortisone and then had the rest of the day. I actually did more frequent dosing that first time. So I did 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and bedtime. So I had throughout the daytime when I was awake and active, I had every 4 hours. And then by the next day we did 2 more days of that. So day 17 of the cycle was Saturday. And I was really active on Saturday. I had a class and I walked a lot. And then we brought my daughter to the store for something, and we walked around the store. My watch told me at the end of the day I walked over 2 miles. So, that was a really big deal, especially for that point in my chemo cycle, because those days, those days 13 to 15 are like the hardest days, and then the most fatigue. And then I got to day, 17, and it was like, okay, here we go. We're going to push ourselves. So when I got to day 18, the weather also changed from really, really cool, like in the 50s, to 88 degrees as a high with a high humidity. And that also really wiped me out. So between the active day I had on Saturday and then the heat on Sunday, by Sunday I actually needed to go up again on the steroids, but I was still just on hydrocortisone and was able to manage that pretty well. The other thing that happened on that Sunday, on day 18 in my 21-day cycle, is I developed another bump. And so, again, if you follow me, back in March, I was in the hospital for 12 days with a skin infection that was in my abdomen. And I got a bump, and it's not in my abdomen, it's in my groin area, kind of on my panty line, which is where I have in the past had hidradenitis suppurativa, like boils. And so when I have one of those, I usually put some castor oil on it, pretty much every time I think of it, and it usually drains itself or goes away, reabsorbs within a day or two. This did not do that. This developed more like my abdominal abscess in that it started to get harder, more painful, and it started to grow and change shape, but it did not look in any way like it was going to drain or reabsorb. And so when I got to, day 19, I started to message my doctors, like, I'm not really sure. It still could drain or reabsorb. Got this bump, but I'm concerned now about chemo coming up, because when we get to day 22, that's chemo day. 21, I had an appointment with the breast center, my breast surgeon's office. I had an appointment with the APRN, which was my normal annual visit with them, and I had her take a look at it because it had continued to just kind of harden. It got a little larger. It was painful at this point, and she suggested maybe we message the surgeon. She actually messaged the surgeon who had seen me in the hospital, and I called I basically left the office and called their office, but he's out of the office until next Wednesday. So they suggested that I go to the emergency department and just have them check it out, because that's what I did last time, I guess. I also had walked from the breast center downstairs to the oncology department. I had them draw my labs for a day early for what I had chemo scheduled. It would have been yesterday. I did not have chemo yesterday, so there's the spoiler alert. I instead went to the emergency department really early in the morning. I did not go there like late at night, because that's taking resources from the ER too, and it's not. It wasn't an emergency. It was urgent, but not emergent. And so they called ahead. They knew I was coming. I came in really early in the morning, and they did an ultrasound of this boil, and basically said, yes, it's a developing abscess. The surgical team that is there in the hospital, that the surgeon who saw me last time is part of, suggested though that because of where it's located really close to the genital area, that I have OBGYN handle this one instead of them. They want to just make sure that there's no OBGYN kind of gynecological concern there. So that's what we did. They had the on-call gynecologist came in, and they actually drained it yesterday right in the emergency department. I followed up with them today. They have it draining. There was it was an abscess. It was well, they said it was developing, and I caught it earlier in the process. There was actually more of an abscess there than there was for the skin infection I had in March, because there was nothing to drain in March, which is why I was in the hospital for 12 days. So I'm really glad that there was something there that they could see, that they could actually drain. They have it, it's something that does need follow-up, because they drain it, but they don't want it to close. So that instead of putting a drain in it though, they put packing material in it. It's like a wick basically that keeps it draining, to just keep it open. And so I went back today to the office for them to change that, and my husband's gonna have to change it at home over the weekend. If he can't for some reason, I will have to go back to the hospital to have it changed, but hopefully we can make it happen. And then I go back on Tuesday, because it's a holiday weekend, don't forget, for them to take a look again at the gynecologist's office. And then I go on Wednesday to see the surgeon who saw me in the hospital and took the drain out the last time. So he did have his secretary, even though he's out of the office, he saw the messages back and forth, and he had his secretary call and get me on his schedule. So all of my doctors work really well together. I cannot say enough good. I know a lot of people, and even myself in the past, have had a really hard time with the medical establishment, but I will say that, you know, between the emergency department, my oncologist who called ahead, my oncologist, the surgical oncologist's office who messaged the surgeon, and then the surgeon called me, you know, the secretary did anyway. So, you know, everybody, and infectious disease as well. They also messaged infectious disease. The same doctor who saw me in March came into the emergency room yesterday. He prescribed oral antibiotics for me to be on at home. I'm on Augmentin for 10 days, which is a heavy antibiotic, but it is not as heavy as the stuff they had me on in the hospital, or even what they sent me home with last time, which was moxifloxacin. So I am not on that broad a spectrum. He said that was unnecessary, but Augmentin is what we're on. So that's pretty much the story. I am following up with, again, OBGYN and the surgeon, and of course my oncologist. I meet with him next Thursday, which would have been the next treatment that I was already planning on skipping because it's 2 days before my daughter's high school graduation. So I am not planning on taking chemo then either. So, but I'll meet with my oncologist then, and we'll determine what the schedule is going to be going forward. We might switch days, maybe it won't be Thursdays anymore, we'll see. We might take a little time off. Maybe my body's telling me I need a little time off. I don't know yet when my next PET scan is, but we'll also be scheduling that to see how the Trodelvy's been working since the last PET scan, because I know usually it's 3 cycles in between, but I had only had 2 cycles between the initial PET scan and then the last one, and I've had 2 more cycles since then, and so we may plan 1 more cycle and then a PET scan, or we may just do a PET scan and see what's what and then plan what happens next. So that's my update. So have a great day, have a wonderful weekend. It's gonna rain here in the Northeast, but that's okay. So there'll be some rain. I guess we need it. Have a good one.